What's up, everyone? Lance Hedrick here, and today I embark on the most ambitious video I've done to date. So today's video is what I think the most important video I've probably ever made. I'm very excited to be able to share this content with you, and I hope that you're excited as well. Go ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment below, because this is gonna be an informative video. So today, what we're gonna be doing, because I know you're really curious with all these grinders, what is this ambitious video you've got going? Today, we need to talk about buyer's remorse. I know that's not what you were thinking, that's not what the thumbnail is telling you, but this is a really important topic and I needed people to watch because this is an important thing to hear. There are grinders being constantly dropped. In this past few months, it's like every week there's a new in-game grinder, a new killer of X, Y, or Z grinder. And like Nisha's come out with the Duo 83s, we have the new fellow Opus, the Bratza Encore ESP, we've got a DF83 version 2 coming out, we've got a DF64 with variable speed. Actually, that reminds me, new grinders. This just showed up in the mail. New grinders every week, unboxing all the time. This arrived just this morning, DF64V. And what I've seen is with the Time Wars, with the Option O's, with the Bentwoods, with the Webers, with the DFs, with the Fellows, the Varias, the Lagomes, all of these grinders, they're launching new stuff all the time. And people at home are worried that whatever they're purchasing, they're gonna regret in a week's time, in 2 weeks' time, in 3 weeks' time. And so they're sitting and they're having anxiety as they're watching all these reviews of all of these grinders being called Endgame, Ultimate, the best for this, the highest before diminishing returns. And listen, I know I'm part of the problem. You fall into this trap of needing to use these types of words in order to get people to click. And if you just call it the name of the grinder, or if you just call it something typical, people aren't clicking. And so the onus is kind of on both of us. There's a reward for putting something like these superlative words on creators' side. And then there's no reward for not doing that. And the same goes for you all. There's no reward whenever you're only clicking these clickbaity titles that feed into this buyer's remorse and this upgrade-itis. But there is a reward if you click on things without as much clickbaity titles. And so there's this weird dynamic that goes on that we as creators kind of struggle with, that you as the audience are struggling with. And I just wanted to put this to rest. If you have a grinder, whatever you have, be happy with it. Now, if you feel the need to upgrade, do your due research, watch reviews, look at forums, go see if you can borrow someone from around you, if you have a community near you where people have certain grinders, and try it out. Make your decision and stick with it. I've gotten so many messages when I posted about the Pietro. Am I gonna regret my Sculptor purchase? Am I gonna regret this? Oh, I thought this was diminishing returns. Should I upgrade to this? Upgrade, 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 upgrade. It's left and right. It's every week. It's every day. I'm constantly seeing this. When you get on Reddit, people are always posting, check out my humble setup, as they have a $3,000 grinder. And that just fuels this desire to always need to upgrade. And all of your money is going to all this marketing that is pushing you to buy their products. Now, I'm not against these companies at all. I love grinders. I'm gonna review these grinders. I'm so excited to review the DF64V. Shout out to Joe Kolb for sending it my way. I'm gonna review the EK43 that I just bought off my own money. I bought the P100 with my own money. I'm excited to review. I'm going to be continuing doing these reviews, and I'm going to keep tearing them down. But what's so important is that you realize that if you buy a grinder and something else seems better or is called Ultimate 2 weeks later, it doesn't nullify the grinder you're wanting to buy or you have on order. It's going to be fine. You're going to enjoy that coffee. What you need to put your focus on is something different. Now, I understand there's this really big community of people that are hyping up their equipment. Okay, I understand that it's fun to share it and to talk about whatever RPM you're on, whatever burr gap you're on, all this stuff is great. But what falls through the cracks is the most important two things. The most important thing is absolutely the coffee you're using. Instead of allocating all of your resources and funds to the next hot grinder that comes out that will be supplanted in a month's time with this craze going on right now, what I implore you to do is take that money and seek out roasters that are being transparent with how they're buying their coffees. Usually when you're going towards these more expensive roasters, the ones that are actually publishing what they're paying for their grain, you are likely going to get much higher quality coffee and a better roast. Now that's not always the case. It's actually very difficult. It's much more difficult to find a roaster that's consistent year round than it is to find a grinder that's consistent. So we're putting all of our worries in the wrong bucket. I'm not saying don't love your equipment. We're crazy people. We're passionate. We love it. Look at all these grinders I've got surrounding me.
I love hardware.
But if you're not also constantly looking for roasters that are pushing the envelope, you're wasting your time and money. The onus is on you as a consumer to push the industry forward. And it's because you're the one that's making the money for the roasters and the importers that are buying green from producers. You want to be sure that the coffee you're buying can be traced. You want to ask your roaster at what they're paying for their coffee. If they're unwilling to be transparent about that, you don't know what these producers are taking home. And even when we know, we can't be sure of all the nuance, but that's a step in the right direction, in my opinion. So you look at roasters like Onus, with whom I work, obviously. You look at Tim Wendable, you look at Coffee Collective, you look at Say, you look at what Kyle Rosell, fellow YouTuber, is doing at September. You look at all these roasters, and one common element among them is that they're showing what they're paying. So just because we know the score and the price of the coffee doesn't necessarily mean we understand exactly what's going in the producer's pocket, but we do understand what is being paid in that transaction. Whenever roasters are holding this information back from you, that means that they might be charging the same as roaster company A, but using coffee that is much cheaper, so their profit margin's this, whereas other company is this. And so it's important to be able to push your roaster in order to release this, because what we're doing in this is, yes, we're chasing flavor, but also if we want to elongate the life of coffee, if we want producers to be incentivized to continue producing even in the waning industry, well, because of climate change and all these different things, if you're wanting this change, then the onus is on you. It's on me. It's on us to find these roasters that are pushing and pushing and pushing to spread equity. Otherwise, we're going to go back to all drinking commodity coffee that's really unethically sourced, and that's not good for anyone. So take all these resources that you are piling up to save up for this grinder that's going to be your end game. Don't do that. Save it and go towards coffee. And eventually, if you're positive on a certain grinder, go for it. Absolutely. But let's make sure that we're going after things in a proper order, okay? It's the chase of that perfect coffee that keeps us driven. I actually don't believe, in the most part, I know there are a few of you out there that can get content, but for the most part, us coffee enthusiasts, we're never going to find that, because we don't want to find that. Once you find it, the chase is over, and a lot of the desire, a lot of the fun in this passion is the chase and the glimpse into that heavenly shot, into that coffee that gives you everything that you want. But it's always these tweaks in order to get there. And some of us might be vain and say, well, we've discovered it and it's perfect every single time. But in reality, there is that itch to go further. And that's why we keep upgrading. And we think the better equipment we have will nullify the issues in other parts of our routine, which is not the case. If you're doing the James Hoffman V60 method and it's not tasting good, there's a pretty good chance that the coffee may not be great. If you can tell that there's a lot of integrity there, and that it's almost to really nice, and you're just not quite getting it, maybe then play with the recipe, maybe then play with your grinder. But you need to find roasters with whom you jive, and you need to be switching around, finding what they're strong at. I have certain roasters I go to for certain origins because I think that they roast these specific origins really well. I have certain roasters I go to just because I want to give them money because of what they're doing in their ethical approach to coffee buying. We need to be able to relegate some of our monies to really nice coffees. People are like, oh my God, this coffee was $20 for a 10-ounce bag or a 240-gram bag or whatever it is, yet they're spending $2,000 on a grinder. You can get better coffee out of that with a $200 grinder than crap coffee that was $1.80 on fair trade, and it was roasted to crap with a $2,000 grinder. The home market is just rife with people wanting to spend their money. I see people buying multiple grinders because they're like, oh, I can't miss out on this. I can't miss out. Then they'll keep 3 and then maybe sell one at like half price or whatever. But you're giving the money to all these companies, and it's pushing them. They're seeing a need, a desire in the market, and they're filling it, and it's becoming super saturated. Now, I'm going to continue my job in making sure I review so that you are well informed as you make your decision. And I'm going to continue to be strong in my opinion because that's who I am. But you need to understand that just because I might say that I no longer think the fellow owed with SSP is the highest, the best filter coffee grinder before diminishing returns, and I now think it's a Time War 078, just because I say that doesn't mean you sell and you buy. That's not what that means. And then I mentioned a second thing that you can change before buying expensive stuff is play with water chemistry. I do not recommend just getting a certain recipe and sitting with it. Like, that's not going to work for all of your coffees. A variable that you need to be playing with before you go and spend on a $2,000 grinder is your water chemistry. Play around with your water chemistry, all right? Play around with how much carbonate hardness, how much general hardness, and where the hardness is coming from, what minerals are coming from. I know this sounds crazy, but there's a lot of great resources online that you can utilize in order to figure this stuff out. And it's as simple as buying certain salts in bulk online and mixing your own solution at home. And then we can consider buying these grinders. But I just want you to know, do not have fear of missing out. The differences in these grinders are very minute. When you get to this point in the technology and where everything's at nowadays, the differences are so small. There are so many options. Grab one, stick with it, work with every element you have, including changing your beans, getting more expensive than you're comfortable with paying, and playing with water. If you're still unhappy, if you don't like the workflow, if it's miserable to work with, then sure, sell it and buy something else. But this thing that I'm seeing, and it's everywhere, of just buyer's remorse constantly, and did I buy the right machine? How did I do? My humble setup, what am I missing? Is this good enough? Let's shift the terminology, let's shift the jargon, let's talk about our coffee experiences more than our gear acquisitions. We can still focus on those, and I'm still gonna focus on this channel, but this is something I feel very passionate about, and I really want to make sure I communicate across clearly, hence the long-ish video for just this simple message. Before you focus solely on how's the thermal stability, how's the motor, what's the wattage, what's the rated power, what's the threading, what's the alignment, how are the tolerances, what are the stock burrs, are they blind, are they screwed, how's the auger, how's the feed rate, is it a pre-breaker? Before we focus on all that, let's focus on getting the coffees that we have available in our area, online, wherever it is, and really start to dial those in. Figure out what roasters you trust, figure out what roasters you align with ethically, and let's make that a big push. Then we can focus on water, then we can focus on gear acquisition syndrome. I know that was like a lecture, that wasn't the usual. I mean, it was energetic, Lance, but it was like, I'm diatribing on you all right? I'm out here like diatribing. That should be like a song, diatribing.
I'm sitting out here in my studio vibing until I get pissed and I start diatribing.
Thank you for watching though. I hope that you share this with friends because I really think this is an important message. I hope that you leave some comments below. I'd love to have a discussion with you about all of this. I'm not demonizing those who share their gear. This is not something to where now you should be scared about posting an exciting purchase you had. Share it. Let's rejoice in what we're doing. Let's rejoice in the furtherment of coffee, whether that's in gear or in coffee or in processing or in any type of innovation, whether it's competition, whether it's people at home that are sharing their Agtron readings using a roaster at home. Whatever it is, let's continue the fervor, but let's make sure we're carving out a bigger space for what's most important here. And let's make sure that we're trying to use our funds to better everyone and not just our Instagram posts. Okay? All right. Thank you so much for bearing with me through that. I hope that you enjoy this video. It's way different than normal. I don't normally just sit here and lecture you, but I did today. And I hope the passion was palpable. Yeah, let's chat in the comments below. Thank you so much. I hope that you brew something tasty today, and cheers.